Officer Curtis Stryker is a character in whose face I laughed as soon as I laid eyes on him way back in Mortal Kombat 3. In a game with superpowered ninjas, gods, and people shooting laser balls out of their hands, a normo cop with no superpowers or any kind of futuristic tech seemed like a purposeful joke on the developer's part. And that's the point. You're meant to belittle Stryker, just as you're meant to wonder what Batman is even doing in a Justice League full of comically powerful demigods. That is, until you actually watch the show and realize that the entire league would have been dead or helpless 100 times over without him. That's who Curtis Stryker is, or at least what he should be. He is the ultimate underdog, and this type of character is one of extremes. They're either incredibly lame if they're poorly written, or incredibly compelling fan favorites if they're not. I don't know if it still does, but Mortal Kombat used to get a lot of criticism for having too many ninjas back in the day. That's what led to some of the worst designed characters like Jarek. Now, I'm the type of guy who doesn't give two shits about this. You could put out an MK game with all ninjas for all I care. But the truth is that superpowering 90% of your roster, if not more, leaves a bit of a vacuum that's just begging to be filled with non-powered people. This was highlighted as recently as MKX, where the introduction of Aaron Black, a gunslinger whose only apparent superpower was shooting people in the face. One of the reasons why this type of character is so compelling is because designing one presents huge creative challenges, but also huge payoffs. Stryker is one such creative challenge, and he fills this gap perfectly. And going back to my initial statement, it's hilarious going through the roster and seeing Fire Ninja, Ice Assassin, Lightning God, Cop. That's like browsing through the main dishes at a restaurant and noticing Snickers bar right below the classic beef Wellington. But you know what? The fact of the matter remains that sometimes I actually do just crave a Snickers bar. And it took me a long time to realize that that is the point of this character. You're supposed to laugh in his face and think he's lame, just like his enemies are supposed to do that, for an underestimated enemy is a dangerous one. Stryker's great because he uses existing mundane weapons and tech to spectacular effect. Imagine an action scene with Stryker using his standard weapons as well as whatever tools he can find in the environment in creative, brutal, and ingenious ways to expertly defeat superior opponents. This is the Punisher, this is Jack Reacher, this is Rama from the Raid series. Or better yet, he's a mix of Batman and Captain America. He defeats stronger opponents with his intellect, a strategic mind, gadgets, and superior martial ability just like Batman, and has a virtuous, honorable soul just like Captain America since he was chosen to be one of the champions of Earthrealm. The ultimate incarnation of the David versus Goliath story. He's aware of his own shortcomings and status as a very mid-hero and fails to understand time and again why he, of all people, has been chosen by the gods, which is an endearing trait and one of my favorite themes that I think many of us relate to in small ways. Sometimes others see more in us than we do. Hopefully. He also brings a much-needed, down-to-earth, no-nonsense perspective to this universe. Oh, my clan is dead and I have become a monster. Oh, the burden of a champion weighs heavily on me. Oh, my family has become corrupted. Oh, my partner has been killed. Oh, I am disfigured. I shall turn evil for it. Oh, the travails of governing an entire realm. Shut the fuck up and do your duty. Stryker could be the Bill Burr of the Mortal Kombat universe. Johnny Cage is also pretty down-to-earth and the usual fish out of water, but he treats everything as a joke, whereas my interpretation of Stryker is more of a straight-talking, deadpan kind of guy that actually would play off of Cage quite well now that I think about it. They could become quite the comedic duo, with Cage constantly cracking wise and Stryker yelling and striking back, pun, at him with some sick-ass burns and some occasionally more physical slapstick abuse, and then Cage setting up a prank for Stryker, and then they bitch and fight, but halfway through the story they have a bonding moment that cements them as bros that have each other's backs and blah. Fun fact, a character named Curtis Stryker was originally slated to appear in the first Mortal Kombat, but the idea was dropped in place of a female fighter. That character would appear in Mortal Kombat 2 renamed Jax, and Stryker was finally made an original character in MK3. Stryker was originally conceived by the developers as a SWAT-type character with several additional weapons, but the game's memory limitations prevented this. He appeared in Armageddon with a complete redesign into a much more futuristic-looking character, armed with 2 back-mounted knives that were never used, which is my favorite part really. Another point, and this goes for other firearm-carrying characters as well, like Cassie and Eren, is that there's something immensely satisfying about bringing a gun to a fistfight. Straight up shooting people in a fighting game and seeing their blood pop out of them in a slightly exaggerated manner like an MK9 is just so goddamn delicious. No one heard that, right? It also helps that his gunshot and grenades made it so easy to pawn noobs who didn't know what they were doing. Not a strong character competitively by any means, but thoroughly fun to play in my opinion. I also like the ruthless pragmatist angle for Stryker. In a universe full of characters droning on about traditions, magic, and honorable one-on-one combat where even alien armies from other realms seem to use mostly medieval weaponry in their fists, Stryker would be the guy that just undercuts much of that by just shooting people in the face when you least expect it. His enemies would hate him, and his allies would accuse him of fighting without honor, whatever that means, and Stryker would proceed to not give a single fuck because war is hell and saving Earthrealm is more important than playing nice, illustrating the fact that Stryker is perhaps the only other character who understands what Shao Kahn does, that there are no rules of engagement and any strategy that can give you victory is valid. So that puts Stryker in an interesting place morally. He's the chosen of the gods, righteous and honorable like Captain America, but also not a spring chicken and understands that he sometimes has to lie, cheat, and steal to maintain order, kinda like Batman. But Batman doesn't lie, cheat, or steal. Yeah, he made contingency plans for every member of the Justice League in case they went rogue, abusing every one of their weaknesses, kept it a secret, and then said contingencies were hijacked and used against said league by psychopathic supervillains. Don't lecture me on fucking Batman. Story-wise, Stryker's role could be similar to that of Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender in that he does all this stuff like drawing battle plans, organizing defenses, leading, fixing things, being the voice of logic and pragmatism, and rarely getting recognized for his efforts. The kind of character that flies under the radar for most of the story, yet when you stop to analyze his contribution, you realize the whole thing would have fallen apart without him. That fits with the whole down-to-earth, everyman flavor of the character. He is, after all, a member of law enforcement, one of many institutions that we take for granted and whose members' faces we never see, but without whom society would crumble. That's Curtis Stryker, and that's why he's quite possibly the most underrated character in all of Mortal Kombat.